You are 24 years old. It is 40,000 years before the first city wall goes up. The sun set an hour ago. Your belly has been tightening all day. Now the pain comes in waves that steal your breath. Every woman in this camp who has given birth before knows exactly what could kill you tonight. The last woman who birthed here bled out before dawn. Her baby did not make it either. And here is the question nobody asked until now. How did ancient women give birth with no doctors, no painkillers, no operating room, and no one to save them when it all went wrong? Here is the thing nobody tells you. Childbirth in the ancient world was not a chaotic, solo free-for-all. It was one of the most structured, ritualized, and female-led events in prehistoric life. But let us be honest about the stakes. Estimates from skeletal evidence and modern hunter gatherer populations put maternal mortality at roughly 1 to 4% per live birth. That sounds small until you remember that a woman might give birth 5 to 10 times over a lifetime. That meant a 5 to 30% chance of dying in labor. That made childbirth the single biggest killer of reproductive-age women in the ancient world. Bigger than predators, bigger than starvation, bigger than warfare. So what did they do? They did not just hope for the best. They built a system. They turned birth into a social survival strategy. And some of what they figured out still works today. Here is problem number 1. The human birth canal is a disaster of evolutionary design. We evolved to walk on 2 legs. That meant a narrow pelvis. We also evolved enormous brains. That meant a huge baby skull. The two do not fit together easily. In fact, human babies are born about a year too early. Every other primate gives birth to a more developed infant. We are all essentially born premature because our heads are too big to stay inside any longer. This is the trade-off that made human birth uniquely dangerous. And it is the reason every ancient birth was a life or death event. Now here is the part that should bother you. Human birth is also rotationally complicated. The baby does not just slide out. It twists. The head enters facing sideways, then rotates to face backward, then rotates again to face forward. This is called rotational birth, and almost no other mammal does it. This rotation creates a lot of friction. It also means the baby's shoulders can get stuck. When a shoulder catches on the pelvic bone, you get something called shoulder dystocia. And here is the brutal truth. If the baby gets stuck and nothing changes, the baby suffocates. The mother bleeds out. Both die. So they had to have a plan, and they did. The number one thing ancient women did was not give birth alone. They gave birth with an audience. An active, trained audience. Ethnographic evidence from groups like the Hadza of Tanzania and the Kungsan of Botswana shows that birth was a cooperative event. Experienced older women acted as midwives. They were not passive observers. They physically manipulated the laboring woman. They changed her position. They massaged her belly. They told her when to push and when to breathe. And one thing they did consistently was get her upright. Modern obstetrics tells us that squatting, kneeling, or being on all fours opens the pelvis by up to 28%. Lying on your back is literally the worst position for birth. It closes the pelvis. It works against gravity. And yet in modern Western medicine, that is still how most women give birth. Ancient women knew better. So they used gravity, they used positioning, and they also used pain relief. This is one of the most surprising parts. Ancient women were not unmedicated. Archaeological and ethnobotanical evidence shows they had a pharmacopoeia for childbirth. Raspberry leaf was used to tone the uterus. Black haw and cranbark acted as smooth muscle relaxants. They literally had natural muscle relaxers. In later periods, they used opium-soaked sponges. They used alcohol. They used cannabis in some cultures. They were not stoic. They were practical. But none of that solved the big problem. The real killer was not pain. It was bleeding. Postpartum hemorrhage was the leading cause of maternal death. The uterus contracts after birth to clamp down on the blood vessels. If it does not contract, you bleed out in minutes. Ancient midwives knew this. They used herbs that contained natural oxytocics. These are compounds that trigger uterine contractions. Blue cohosh and ergot were both used for this purpose. Though they were dangerously dosed, they also used physical techniques. They applied pressure to the abdomen. They used pelvic bindings. They elevated the woman's legs to keep blood in her core. And if those things failed, they had other options. Darker options. Now here's the part that will haunt you. If the baby got stuck, the midwives had to choose. And sometimes the choice was impossible. The evidence from ancient Egyptian papyri and later medieval texts shows that midwives would reach in. They would try to manually turn the baby. They would try to break the collarbone to reduce the shoulder width and slide the baby out. But sometimes even that was not enough. In those cases, they faced the most brutal procedure, a craniotomy. They would crush the baby's skull to save the mother. This was not a choice made lightly. It was a last resort, and it is evidence of something important. They valued the mother's life. They had a survival hierarchy, and the adult woman came first. So that was how they handled the stuck baby. But what about the baby that could not come out at all? What about the C-section? There is a myth that the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar was born by C-section. That is probably not true. His name comes from the Latin word citadere, meaning to cut. But his mother lived, and C-sections on living women almost always killed the mother at that time. However, Roman law required a procedure called the lex regia. It demanded that women who were dying in late pregnancy be cut open to save the infant. This was post-mortem C-section. The mother was already dead, but here is the shocking part. Some ancient cultures might have performed C-sections on living women. Historical accounts from the Buganda people in East Africa describe successful abdominal deliveries performed before European contact. There are similar claims from ancient Egypt and Peru. These claims are debated among historians. The evidence is ambiguous, but the knowledge that the abdomen could be cut and the baby removed existed in deep antiquity. It was just almost always fatal for the mother. So what was the real survival strategy? It was not medical, it was social. Women who had strong social networks had much higher survival rates. Women with experienced midwives, women with access to enough food, so they had some body fat. Body fat stores estrogen, and estrogen helps with the energy demands of pregnancy and birth. They also spaced their births. Ethnographic evidence shows that hunter-gatherers typically breastfed their children for 2 to 3 years. Prolonged breastfeeding suppresses ovulation and naturally spaces births. Fewer pregnancies meant fewer chances to die. It also meant the mother had time to recover. Her body could rebuild its iron stores and its bone density. This is why modern hunter-gatherers like the Hadza typically have 4 to 6 children, not 10. They are not trying to have large families. They are trying to survive. And there is one more piece of the puzzle. Infant mortality was high too, but mothers who survived often had more children who survived. The midwife skills were passed down from mother to daughter, from elder to younger. This is the part of the story that does not make it into most textbooks. Women were not passive victims of biology. They were active problem solvers. They created a system. They shared their knowledge. They saved each other. Think about that for a second. The reason you are alive today is not just because your ancestors survived saber-tooths and starvation and war. It is because in a fire-lit hut thousands of years ago, a circle of women caught a baby. They stopped the bleeding. They kept a mother breathing. That is the real origin of civilization, not cities, not agriculture, not writing. It is midwives. It is the knowledge passed from woman to woman. It is the brutal, beautiful, life-saving work of people who refused to let each other die in the dark. So the next time you hear someone say that ancient life was simpler, remember this. It was not simpler. It was just sharper. The stakes were higher. And the women who survived made sure the knowledge survived with them. And that, honestly, is the most human thing of all. There is a whole world of these little human mysteries. The things we do every day without knowing where they came from. Stick around if you are curious about being human.